All right, joining us now is Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is with us, and his memoir, by the way, is entitled The Long Game. It includes a new foreword by President Trump, and it's now out in paperback. Senator, good to see you. Welcome back to the program. It's been a while. I want to find out about the new foreword. I think most people don't fully understand. Let's assume for a minute that the House goes forward with this impeachment, and it's over to the Senate. Walk us through how this process works and the options available and what you see happening and how you see this going down.
First, as you've pointed out to your viewers, frequently the Democrats have been wanting to do this for 3 years. The first headline in the Washington Post before the president was inaugurated was they were going to impeach him. Well, they finally got around to it, and we assume we're going to see 2 articles of impeachment, both of them pretty weak stuff, coming over to us, and your question is what happens then. Under the rules of impeachment, the Senate then turns to it, has no option but to turn to it, and it's the sole business until we finish. How we can impact that really is just with 51 votes. The Chief Justice is in the chair. I don't expect the Chief Justice to try to tilt the playing field either way. We'll listen to the opening arguments by the House prosecutors. They will listen to the president's lawyers respond. And then we'll have to make a decision about the way forward. And everything I do during this, I'm coordinating with White House counsel. There will be no difference between the president's position and our position as to how to handle this to the extent that we can. We don't have the kind of ball control on this that a typical issue, for example, comes over for the House. If I don't like it, we don't take it up. We have no choice but to take it up, but we'll be working through this process, hopefully in a fairly short period of time, in total coordination with the White House counsel's office and the people who are representing the president in the will of the Senate.
So I've got to believe that the federal rules for the admission of evidence would apply here with the Chief Justice in charge, and that would mean there would be no hearsay evidence be allowed, and that would probably mean, well, you might have 1 or 2 opinion people, fact or experts, but when we watch this process unfold in the House, especially in the Schiff show, everyone was a hearsay or an opinion witness. The one fact witness said, oh, the president said he wants nothing, no quid pro quo. That was the only fact witness that I saw. So that would be Ambassador Sondland. Would that be, in your view, how the federal rules of evidence would apply here?
Well, exactly how we go forward, I'm going to coordinate with the president's lawyers. So there won't be any difference between us on how to do this. You raised the issue of what if you have witnesses. The president's counsel may or may not decide they want to have witnesses. The case is so darn weak coming over from the House. We all know how it's going to end. There's no chance the president's going to be removed from office. My hope is that there won't be a single Republican who votes for either of these articles of impeachment. And, Sean, it wouldn't surprise me if we got 1 or 2 Democrats. It looks to me over in the House, the Republicans seem to be solid and the Democrats seem to be divided.
Well, I think you rightly point out this is very weak. I mean, we'll look, for example, at the obstruction issue. So here, the president, like every other past president, has exerted executive privilege. Okay, yeah. They don't like it when there is a dispute between the legislative branch and the executive branch. Well, that would be the role of the judicial branch, which is to resolve the disputes between the other 2 branches of government. But apparently they're in such a rush to do this that they didn't want to give the courts any time, or perhaps even worse, they feared what the courts would decide.
Yeah, well, this is a thoroughly political exercise. It's not like a courtroom experience. It's a political exercise. They've been trying to do this for 3 years. They finally screwed up their courage to do it. It looks to me like it may be backfiring on them, particularly in swing districts that the Speaker's party managed to win in order to get to the majority. Most of the nervousness I see on this issue with the politicians, since it's a political process, is on the Democratic side.
So you will allow, let's assume it comes over to the Senate. You're obligated to take it up. I think everybody understands that.
Right.
Whoever the House chooses to present their case, they will present their case, however long period of time that takes. There is some dispute, and actually I could probably be persuaded on either side, which for me is a rare thing, Senator. And that would be, okay, a lot of people would like to bring in Adam Schiff, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden. I think I'm more inclined to agree with Senator Graham on this. It's tempting, and I do believe that all of those things must be looked into. There are a lot of real questions here. But I don't know if that would be the appropriate forum once you would have the 51 votes at that point to end this, which, again, very weak case. I think it would be smart to do so. Where would your inclination be?
Yeah, again, I'm going to take my cues from the president's lawyers. But, yes, if you know you have the votes, you've listened to the arguments on both sides, and believe the case is so slim, so weak, that you have the votes to end it, that might be what the president's lawyers would prefer. And you can certainly make a case for making it shorter rather than longer, since it's such a weak case.
Okay. Are you confident? So we talked about, for example, the obstruction charge, and the other one would be the abuse of power charge. You've read the phone call. You've watched, I'm sure, a lot of the coverage that has taken place in the House. Do you see any evidence of any wrongdoing whatsoever on the president's part? As you read that transcript, I read it over and over again. I certainly don't see what we hear Joe Biden bragging about. You're not getting $1 billion taxpayer dollars unless you fire the prosecutor he knew was investigating his son with zero experience making millions. That didn't happen.
Well, this is a really weak case, and that's why I think you're going to see bipartisan opposition to the articles over in the House.
How long do you think, and we'll move on from here, how long would you imagine after the House presents its case, and that will happen in full?
Well, look, if they do it this next week, Sean, we will be able to get consent to go home for Christmas. So we would turn to it right around the first of the year, and we would stay on it until we finish. And my hope is that it will be a shorter process rather than a lengthy process.
So you have your book, and look, Donald Trump is a lot of things, and I probably have known him maybe longer than you, well over 20-some-odd years. He's a disruptor. He's an iconoclast. He is a fighter. He's also gotten a lot of good things done for the country. Kept a lot of promises with your help on judges, tax cuts. Certainly, he's got the money for the wall, ending burdensome regulation, better trade deals. Baghdadi's dead, the caliphate defeated. What have you learned over this time with the president now, almost 3 years, that maybe you didn't know?
Well, let me tell you what this book is about. This book is about the most long-lasting contribution that Donald Trump and Senate Republicans have made for the country. And that is putting young men and women who are strict constructionists, who believe the job of a judge is to follow the law, on the courts. We did our 50th Circuit Court judge just yesterday. Sean, to put that in perspective, Barack Obama did 55 circuit judges in 8 years. We've done 50 in 3 years, and we have at least a year left for sure. We're going to do more. 1/4 of the circuit judges. Remember, most cases don't make it to the Supreme Court. Most complex litigation never makes it beyond the circuit courts. This has been the most long-lasting, important contribution the president could make well into the future, far beyond his tenure in office. So we'll have a judiciary more inclined not to make it up on the fly. You know, President Obama said he wanted to appoint judges who had empathy. Well, you know, that makes great sense if you're the litigant before the judge for whom the judge has empathy. Not so good if you aren't. Let's
talk about the issue has come up. Let's say somebody were to retire at the end of this year, leading into the summer. You have been very clear, if the president appointed somebody, you would follow through on that nomination.
Absolutely. We definitely would do that. And this paperback that we were just talking about, the president's foreword is about judges. My afterword catches up what's happened during the Trump administration on judges, because my memoir came out 3 years ago before the president was elected. What we've done here, the president and I together with this paperback that you've shown on the screen, is to talk about how the Judge Project came about, how it went forward. If you were to recall, Sean, the most important decision I've made in my entire political career was not to fill the Supreme Court vacancy when Justice Scalia passed away. That was the beginning, and now we've got an exclamation point here after 3 years that we thought the public would be interested in reading about, and that's why the President and I collaborated on this paperback.
I was shocked that former President Obama left so many vacancies and didn't try to fill those positions.
I'll tell you why. I was in charge of the of what we did the last 2 years of the Obama administration.
I will give you full credit for that. And by the way, take a bow. All right, that was a good line. Well, congratulations on the book. We'll be watching, obviously, very closely in the Senate. Do you see any possible defections?
I doubt it. I doubt it. There's zero chance the president obviously would be removed from office, and I'm hoping we'll have no defections at all.
All right, Senator Mitch McConnell, thank you for being with us.